Welcome to the G20 Interfaith Podcast, a platform where we explore the intersection of faith, global challenges, and policy. Welcome to the IF20 G20 Interfaith Forum podcast. I'm Marianna Richardson.
And I'm Stuart Bird.
We're thrilled to be with you today to talk specifically about our year-end report. This year-end report will have physical copies that if you come to the forum or to any of our meetings, you'll be able to get a copy, but we also will have it on the website. So we're very excited about telling you a little bit about it. What is your thought about it, Stuart?
Yeah, the first thing I was impressed by is just how much content we had for a single year. It's 40 pages, which just means that IF20 had so much going on this year, so much outreach that it took 40 pages to completely tell the story of 2025. So I was very impressed by that.
Well, it's pretty exciting. When you look at it, it's also beautiful. I mean, I'm just really impressed with how beautiful this year-end report is. And it has a lot of really wonderful pictures to show, the different people that have come to all the different events. But on the cover, you're going to see a beautiful picture of a protea flower. Now, this flower was the logo for G20 South Africa this year, 2025. And we also kind of took that as our theme for our year-end report. This South African national flower is kind of an interesting flower in that it's known for its ability to regenerate even after a fire. The protea embodies the strength that we feel that can emerge from challenges. And the protea also has these distinct petals, as you're going to see in the picture, that come together in one bloom. And so it's all this idea of unity is also very much that it talks about diverse faiths and cultures coming together. It also forms a strong, hopeful, and deeply connected connection between all these different groups. All of these kind of are symbolized by this beautiful flower in South Africa. And so we picked that as our theme. The theme that was chosen, as we've said many times in 2025 for South Africa, was solidarity, equality, and sustainability. And these themes are deeply rooted in the protea and this idea of Ubuntu, which I know we talked a lot about this last year. But this philosophy that I am because we are is something that also is symbolized by this beautiful flower. So we talked a lot in 2025 about the interconnectedness of all of us and how important it is that we, each individual, also reaches out to people in different, countries, different races, different religions, that we do come together. And we come together about specific topics. So we've mentioned this before, but as we talk about the year-end report, we're going to mention it again. Our five main topics this year were food security and poverty, economic and financial action, especially for nations that are in debt, addressing interreligious tensions through education and also enhancing understanding of other religions, and then migration and refugee movements, and then disaster prevention. So when you read the year-end report, you'll also see that it talks about these five different themes and how we specifically address them this year.
I appreciate that those themes are right at the beginning of the document, just to set the stage for what we were focused on this year. We also want to report on the outreach of our social media platforms in 2025. Um, IF20 is found on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. On Instagram, for the year of 2025, we had 2,381 likes with 7,176 views. And when you think about the context of this, all of our posts on Instagram are designed to help promote those focuses that Dr. Richardson, you just said. Um, and I think that that is amazing to think about. 7,000 people seeing our content and learning about us is really impactful. On YouTube, in 2025, we had 1,223 subscribers. Um, our views in YouTube really increased this year. Uh, in 2024, we had 33,000, about 33,000
Yeah,
views.
I mean, it's
Um,
double, which is pretty
it's
amazing.
double. Yeah, in 2025, we've had 66,000 views. So 100% increase from the previous year, with the total watch time being 2.6 thousand hours, which is amazing.
It's a lot of
Um,
hours.
it's a lot of hours of watching content focused on solidarity, unity, and those principles that you talked about. On Facebook, we had 5,517 views, which is amazing. And just going back to talk about the YouTube views, our, the location where we had the most views on our YouTube channel is the United States, but second was China. So in China, there were 3.4 thousand views of our IF20 YouTube channel, followed by South Africa, which makes sense because that is where uh, we held our meetings this year. So really
That
amazing to
that
see the
China number
reach.
really surprised me, Stuart. With
Yeah.
the, to see that, I was, very it made me happy, but it also surprised me.
Yes. Yeah. Really amazing.
So the other thing that we wanted to talk about was what's happened with our Viewpoints blog. That also has, we're going to put in a push on this podcast to please go and read our Viewpoints blog if you're interested in these important topics. Our most viewed Viewpoints blogs were first Religious Freedom Priorities, a summary of the IRF summit, which we're going to be talking about actually in just a couple of weeks. The 2026 International Religious Freedom Summit will be happening, and we will also have a large presence from IF20. The other one that I thought was interesting that was a very highly viewed Viewpoints blog was Bridging Divides, Covenantal Pluralism as a Path to Religious Freedom. And then we had another series that was on Ukraine and Russia and the increased nuclear threat in these uncertain times. And that was a fascinating one. And then we also had a large viewership when it came to and readership on the G20 Interfaith Forum, our pre-meetings. So we really love those summaries that we give on the Viewpoints blog about some of these things that we go to so that people can just see what we're doing and find out, the different things that we are trying to accomplish in this really important year. 2026, I think, is going to be even a bigger year for us. We're very excited about what's going to be happening. In terms of the Viewpoints blogs too, we've seen a large increase of readers, where we have as many as 1.5 thousand, so 1,500 in a month. Usually, the lowest we ever have in a month is 500, but it goes up to 1.5, especially during the summer when we're having all of our different big events, and also in the fall. So, our Viewpoints blog, please read it. I think you'll really enjoy it. But we have Viewpoints blogs every two times a week. You'll see new Viewpoints blogs. Also, I wanted to mention that our president, W. Cole Durham Jr., had a lot of health issues this year. We were so sorry that he was unable to come to our forum this year, but he's doing much better this year, and I know that he will be very much involved in our meetings, but also specifically at the forum this year for sure.
Our document also includes a message from the Vice President of IF20, Catherine Marshall, and she actually brings up two acronyms, which some may be familiar with, some may not be. The first one is NATO, no action, talk only. And that's obviously not an acronym that we want to have happening. She says that a better one is advance. A stands for accountability, D is for determination, V is for vision, A is for action, N is for now, C is for compassion, and E is for empowerment. And so you can go on to our year-end review document and read her full message there.
Now, we're not going to go through all of what happened at the forum in terms of the pre-meetings and the post-meetings because we have already had podcasts on all that. But we did want to talk just for a moment about the media report that happened during our South Africa event, because these numbers were pretty spectacular. We had 50, almost 55,000 Instagram views during our interfaith forum, which if you looked at the normal Instagram views, it's about 10 times just during that forum time versus how many we usually get in a month. So we upped over 3,500 total followers, we gained through this. And then we had a lot of interactions. But I think also when we look at the numbers of people who actually came or watched during the in real time, we had 31 academics, but we had 48 countries represented, 50 religions represented, and then 126 religious administrators from all those 50 different religions, and then 300 civil society representatives and also policymakers. Now, in person participants at this event was 457, but we also had 704 people watching in real time during the forum. And so those numbers are so much bigger than we did the year before. It's pretty exciting to think of the influence that the forum had this year, and we're really hoping that that will continue. One thing that we wanted to highlight that happened at the social summit, which we've already had, if you're interested in what happened at the social summit, Sandile Makazi came and taught us and told us all that happened there. But I do want to highlight one thing that I thought was really important, and that is the Modern Slavery Prevention Index launch. So it's kind of a mouthful, the Modern Slavery Prevention Index. They're now calling it the MSPI, which is a little easier to say. But this was done by Kevin Highland and also Duncan Jepson, who did our wonderful webinar series on anti-trafficking. But the two of them worked together to basically start this groundbreaking platform that tracks and analyzes how G20 and other governments are working to prevent exploitation and modern slavery. This is an opportunity for, people to understand what's really happening. And the point here is that it's not happening like it should, that there needs to be more. The platform examines national plans and strategies, activities, resource allocation, and implementation efforts across all these countries. And it provides unprecedented transparency into governmental commitments to combat human trafficking. Now, Highland and Jepson have worked on this initiative so hard this year. We really want to make sure that people go, that you can find it on our website, but you can also find it on their Preveni website as well. And this really does demonstrate how IF20 networks together with other people to advance concrete tools for accountability and progress, and especially in this really important area of anti-human trafficking. So I just wanted to spotlight that one thing that happened at the end of the year last year because I do think it's so significant and something a real tangible thing that we did that I think will help G20 and also help our, what we're trying to do in anti-trafficking.
Hmm. Thank you, Mariana. In addition to that and also the our annual forum that was held in Cape Town, there were about 13 other events throughout the year that IF20 either hosted or attended. Each of those events are highlighted in this document. Unfortunately, we don't have the time today to go through all 40 pages and highlight all the events. But it is important to understand that IF20 was involved in many international conferences this year.
Realize they were all over the world. I mean, from Rome to Singapore to Azerbaijan, you name it, we were there, which is, really significant too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I wish we had a map and we could put a pin in all the places that IF20 was
I
this
know.
year.
It was
It
pretty.
would fill the map for sure. Now we want to highlight and celebrate this podcast show. We're very grateful to all of our listeners who tune in and listen to what's happening at IF20. This year, we have both our video portion on YouTube and our audio version on other podcast platforms. We had 528 views and 311 listens. For total, we had 835 views and listens. We had many podcast guests this year, which was kind of something that we have started more recently. We had at least 7 podcast guests, and I think we had a few more than that. It might have been closer to 10 by the time we got to the end of the year. Um, but we're just very grateful for the listeners that we have, and we understand that the IF20 can't personally interact with every human being on this earth, obviously. And so we understand that as a network of networks, the small and mighty group of 528 people who view our episodes, we hope that each of you will then go take it into your interactions and help these ideas just get spread forth.
No, I agree. And I think sometimes too, it's interesting to see which ones were the favorites. Oftentimes they're, like I said, the individuals that we had, like for instance, Audrey Kitagawa and her story of faith-led humanitarian work, and Yashika
Yeah.
Singh and her experience with interfaith collaboration, and then Christina Tobias Nahi and her work at Islamic Relief. So it was interesting to see how our listeners are getting to know these amazing people that are doing
Right.
such powerful work all over the world. The last thing we wanted to spotlight is our webinars. We had 16 webinars this past year, and all of them are just listed in our year-end report along with a very short synopsis. And this will enable our listeners, if you want to go and see which ones of these webinars you want to review and look at again, all of them are on our YouTube. And so we invite you to maybe look at the list, and if there's something that interests you, that you go and still watch it. It's still there, and they're still very, very relevant today. A couple of highlights I did want to talk about that I think really were significant webinars this year was first a series that we did on anti-human trafficking, where Duncan Jepson was the one that was the host for those. And there was a whole series. We did about 5 or 6 of those this year. The other one that we did too, that was a series, we did a series of faith in action. And the Faith in Action series were based on the different areas, those 5 themes that we talked about. And their focus was very much on South Africa and what was going to happen when we talked about the forum already. But those were wonderful lead up to the forum. And then we had some other really interesting ones. I know a big hot topic that we're going to be looking forward to talking more and more about this year is AI and its effect on religions and religious actors' concerns with AI. We did have a couple of those. We also had one on guns, gangs, and violence, the role of faith communities. That was really interesting, that had a former police chief, an indigenous advocate, and a former white supremacist who came in and talked about preventing violence and how important it is that we all work together. I was thinking about that today. If you're interested in that, please watch that. That was really an amazing one that I really enjoyed. Um, we also did another one that I'll just spotlight because I really enjoyed this one was addressing interreligious tensions through literacy and enhancing understanding and harmony. And in this one, it was specifically talking about how importance it is that we talk about ignorance and misinformation and how oftentimes these are driving religious conflict. And instead, what we need to do is we need to be a voice to be able to stop this misinformation. And that's one of the things that I know we're going to be focusing in as we talk about this year and talk about some of the themes we're discussing. AI is a culprit in terms of misinformation and sometimes getting people riled up against religions that shouldn't happen. And so we'll be discussing more and more about that. And then finally, I did want to talk in terms of our human slavery part that we talked about. One that I really enjoyed was forced labor, trade bans, and supply chains. Do import restrictions work? And this is something that we're talking a lot about is the whole thing of tariffs and trade bans and what's happening. I mean, I see that in the news every single day. But this webinar examined whether import bans effectively combat forced labor. And evidence showed that 52 enforcement orders blocking imports have prompted companies to improve supply chain transparency and led countries like Malaysia to implement better worker protections. And so, this was really interesting how some of these restrictions actually help workers to have a better workplace. So go back and watch these great webinars. They're there for you and they're not going away. You'll be able to see them on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, thank you, Mariana. That was a very interesting statistic that you brought up, and that's something that I've enjoyed with the webinars is I've learned a lot of facts from the webinars from experts who are, professionals in a certain field that are the guests in the discussions. It's not only just opinions and ideas, but I've learned a lot about different things I didn't know about. So, yeah, we encourage everyone to go look at those. Now, to finish, we just want to show the listeners who are watching, we want to show um, what the year-end document looks like with the front cover. You'll see on the screen here the blue background with the striking photo of the protea flower right there in the front. Just like Mariana, you discussed in the beginning of this discussion about what that protea flower means. Um, it looks majestic right there on
Yeah,
the
no, it
front
is.
of
It's
the
beautiful.
cover.
So please, please, please read it. I think that it's the content is even more important than how beautiful it is. So, um, and that
Right.
shows all the people that came to the forum, and it just does a wonderful job of showing you the great work that we have done this past year in 2025. And it also helps you understand what we can do for 2026 as we look forward to a new year.
That's right.
Thank you to our listeners. We just so appreciate those that are willing to listen and hear about what's happening at IF20.
We hope that you'll join us next time for another episode of the G20 Interfaith Forum podcast.
Thank you.
The podcast provides information and discussions on the G20 Interfaith Forum, but the views expressed are those of the individuals involved and not necessarily the official stance of the forum.
The content is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice or expert recommendations. Listeners should exercise personal responsibility, seek professional guidance, and conduct further research when making decisions based on the podcast.
The information shared may not always reflect the most current developments, and external links or resources are provided for additional information but are not endorsed or controlled by the podcast.
By listening to the podcast, listeners acknowledge and accept the these disclaimers. Please be aware that the content of this podcast may be subject to copyright. Unauthorized copy, distribution, and reproduction of any part of the podcast is prohibited.